Good evening, and you're watching Biz Malaysia. All eyes are on ASEAN, and this time all eyes are on Malaysia as well. The Agreement on Reciprocal Trade ART is a bilateral trade arrangement between Malaysia and the United States, designed to ensure fair balance and mutually beneficial trade relations between countries. Now, it was officially signed on 26 October 2025 by the Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister of Malaysia and the Honourable President of the United States of America. Now, the ART aims to stabilize trade relations between Malaysia and the US, especially after introduction by the United States on countries with large trade surpluses. Also protect Malaysian exports and jobs by securing continued access to the US market and promote fair treatment, ensuring that both sides apply tariffs, market access and trade rules in a reciprocal, balanced way. But unlike a full free trade agreement, FTA, the ART is more targeted and flexible. It focuses on tariff adjustments, sectoral cooperation, regulatory cooperation and mutual market access. But why does it all matter, you may ask? Well, it positions Malaysia as a trusted global manufacturing and supply chain hub. I'm Brendan Lepal, and in a moment we'll be discussing all this and more with our guest in the studio. But before that, for the ASEAN stock market analysis, let's follow the report from Muhammad Shakil Haziq, Muhammad Zubil, Remisia from the Malaysian Bumiputra Remisia Association Pre-Bumi.
As you can see, most Asian market opened higher today. The AMCHAM Malaysia opened slightly lower at 162.12, down 0.02 points before recovering back higher than yesterday closing. The GCI Indonesia opened slightly lower at 8306, down 30 points or 0.16%. The STI Singapore opened slightly higher at 4456, up 38 points or 0.87%. The Philippines opened slightly higher at 5843, up 25 points or 0.42%. The Vietnam opened slightly higher at 1656, up 1 point or 0.04%. And as we can see, global markets are rebounding today after Wall Street snapped its 2 days losing streak. And we can see the Nasdaq climbed 0.7% and the S&P 500 rose 0.4% as investors return to tech stocks on signs of resilient US economy. Stronger than expected data in the US also helped to boost the confidence, even though there's a rising treasury yields and cautious that Fed's signals have tempered hopes for near-term rate cuts. In Asia, futures in Japan, Hong Kong and Australia points to a positive open following the US momentums. Deep buying remains the key themes as investors look for value after recent volatility. For ASEAN market, the outlook is mildly positive as a softer US dollar and the global growth could attract short-term fund inflow into Malaysia, Singapore and Indonesia, especially in tech and export-related stocks. Still, traders should stay alert. Rising bond yields and tariff uncertainty could limit gains, but overall sentiment across Asia is turning more constructive.
And that was Market Watch. Now, coming back to the topic, the ART is a targeted agreement rather than a full free trade agreement, FTA, offering a flexible and also targeted framework for trade relations. It is expected to boost investor confidence, particularly for small and medium enterprises, SMEs, in high-tech industries and support Malaysia's goal of moving up the global value chain. Now, more of this in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Biz ASEAN. Now, the agreement on reciprocal trade, ART, is a bilateral trade arrangement between Malaysia and the United States designed to ensure fair, balanced and mutually beneficial trade relations between the two countries. Now, today on Biz ASEAN, we explore how ART or ART paves the way for resilience and how it can benefit the economy, but most importantly, what goodness lies ahead for all of us. And joining us in the studio is DATO Siobhan Das, CEO, American Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, AMCHAM. DATO, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Now, DATO, first and foremost, would you let us all know why the ART agreement, why is it important to Malaysia?
Thank you for the question. It's actually probably one, at this point in time, one of the more consequential agreements that I think Malaysia could have signed, giving stability to the country. And I actually think that it paves the way for all of us to have a level of certainty, but it also paves the way for Malaysia to project itself as a trusted supplier in part of the global supply chain.
Right. So when we talk about certainty, what certainty are we taking a look at actually?
Well, in the current volatility, when you have tariffs being applied across the world.
Right, that's right.
This is not just a Malaysia story, this is a global story. Their businesses have been kind of stuck trying to understand where the tariff lines are going to lie. So in the last 8 months, we've had 3 tariff opportunities or tariff indicators, whether it was in April, in August, and now we have the reciprocal tariffs that, and with this agreement, stabilizing at 19%, 19 to 20% in the ASEAN area. And with the agreement, it allows Malaysia to focus on sectors that it really wants to grow, and the agreement gives that room, the headroom, for those sectors to have a exemption on some tariffs or lower tariffs so that they can actually flourish and establish certainty within those sectors.
Thank you for the explanation, Dato. Now, Dato, coming back to the post-signing of the 26th of October, now both sides literally have 60 days before the agreement comes into effect. Now, in the interim, how should the business community that exports to the US or has significant dealings with the US market prepare to take advantage of the deal?
I think you need to take this time, the 60 days, or take the time as you read the agreement. All of us have just read the agreement for the first time.
Right.
Read the agreement in detail, understand your business model, how it applies to your business model, and where the impact might lie. Some of them will have an impact that will go up to 19% tariffs. Some will have a lesser effect, whether you have a drop in your tariffs, or in some sectors, zeroed out. So I think you need to understand in detail. There's a 400-page, I believe, list of all the lines that it impacts.
Right.
Go through them and see which ones actually impact you and your business model to the United States. And don't forget, this is going back to the United States. So if you're exporting to the United States, you need to read the agreement and understand where it impacts your business model. It's not a blanket agreement for everybody.
Right. Dato, just your point of views. Do you think 60 days is enough for business, of course, the community to navigate around and move around this tariff that is being applied to us, whether or not it applies to their business model or whether or not that it applies to them?
I think that we've had 8 months of understanding our business model, so I think 60 days, I think we have enough time, given the fact that we've had 8 months of homework, to actually then look at, we're holding all the details, now how do we see how it's applying?
Okay. Now, 3 reasons, Dato, as to why the ART agreement would help boost trade, and also let's talk about tech and trust at the same time.
Well, I mean, the agreement allows Malaysia to really kind of be the first out the door. I mean, the fact that we signed early on, the fact that we've given a runway to the industry to be able to enable the technology to be utilized, to be able the agreement to be utilized and come ahead of the rest of the pack. I think it's a huge boost for Malaysian-based companies, whether you are an MNC or an SME. And I think using this period of time to see how you can be compliant to the agreement, how do we use technology to become more compliant to the agreement, and also it gives you access to technology that you can bring in from the United States to be able to boost your readiness, to boost your market access. So I think these are things that companies need to be looking at, and how do they actually want to take advantage of the market access that MITI has so strenuously kind of fought for, so that Malaysian goods can go into the United States.
Thank you, Dato, for that wonderful explanation. And the ART transform. Now, how does the art transform the presence and value proposition of American MSCs operating here in the country?
Well, I think this is a really interesting space. Malaysia has a very long history with the American MNCs. The history goes back 50, 60 years. And in that time, the investments, the capital investments that have taken place has been very large. I think we're one of the number one of number two investors in Malaysia. But not just in CapEx, but also in the softer side, the contribution to GNI, the contribution to the training of Malaysians, the contributions of training of SMEs to bring them into the ecosystem. So this agreement actually expands that. Because we have certainty of the marketplace, you have a certainty of where your customer is. Now, companies that are based here can actually think, okay, we can actually export to America with lower tariffs. We have market access in that sense. What more can we do to come up the value chain? The MNCs can then have with that certainty, expand their ecosystem into Malaysia so that they can actually transfer more technology, transfer more knowledge, and bring more talent into the space so that then Malaysia has the footings to grow further and be a much more trusted partner, much more viable partner for global value chains. And I think that's the opportunity not just for MNCs, but also it spills over to the SMEs.
Now, we've spoken about this with other guests, VIPs join us in the studio as well. Now, they spoke about how the opportunities, of course, it lies ahead. But with regards to the manpower, probably infrastructure, so that could actually be a challenge. So with the art agreement, probably perhaps, maybe what is your views, Dato, with this when it comes to not to say that we don't have the facilities, etc., but what about manpower and the knowledge of human capital?
You know, Malaysia always underrates itself here. I think Malaysia has incredible infrastructure. It was one of the reasons why American companies and foreign companies have come and made a base in Malaysia. So we do have strong institutional health. We have strong foundations. The infrastructure is there. Can it be improved? It can always be improved. So this is the opportunity with the agreement to see how we can use the technology, input the influx of technology to upgrade our systems, to bring more global standards into play in Malaysia so that they can be much more exportable, much more marketable, because the more that we can do here in Malaysia that is of a global standard, using the infrastructure that we have and the talent that we have, and we're incredibly rich in talent.
Right.
The problem is that our talent keeps going away.
Right.
But now we have to, because of the opportunities now here, maybe the talent will stay here and we can groom them with the training from the investments that are coming in, and then we can, the certainty that the SMEs have, the fact that they have a client and they have a customer, that certainty will be able to grow and it'll allow SMEs to invest in their people, not just the MNCs, but the SMEs to invest in their people. So I think this is a really rich opportunity for Malaysia to use the agreement to grow the talent that they need, to put people on the global stage, put the talent on the global stage. As American MNCs come into Malaysia, they plug Malaysia into a global system, and our talent plugs straight into global teams. And the fact that we can plug straight into global teams, this is a huge benefit from many people, from many countries around us. And I think that's one of the benefits that we have. And of course, the fact that a lot of Malaysians already speak English it just ramps it up faster. So this is an opportunity.
I think sharing of information and knowledge is crucial because if there's not much information being spread out to the public with regards to businesses out there, then probably perhaps this would backfire in so many extent. But Dato, at AMCHAM, will there be any, or are there any programs that are in line for business out there to, perhaps get more information or probably get some knowledge about expanding their business or getting to know more about the art agreement?
I think we will be doing, as we're all unpicking this agreement ourselves, as we get more clarity as to exactly what it is. It's still in the process of being finalized. So as we get more clarity, and we're talking to MITI and we're talking to the United States, we will definitely be putting on programs where people can learn more about it. SMEs and MNCs can understand where the opportunities lie, and also give opportunities for companies to meet each other as well, and to be able to. I think that's something we do not just as an AMCHAM, but also with our partner chambers, our other chambers who are supporting and part of that global ecosystem that exists in Malaysia, as well as the SMEs that are already plugged in. The question is, can we can we open that? Can we widen it? And can we make sure that SMEs know that they have a potential client in the MNCs that are here, but also in the MNCs that are sitting abroad where applies the same global standards.
Correct.
So this is an opportunity for Malaysia to diversify its market, not just to the United States. This is a standard raising agreement that MNCs and SMEs can then say, this puts us on a better footing for the global market. It enriches Malaysia. And then, yes, sometimes you'll see the results further down the line, but Malaysia has worked very hard with its NIMP, the NSS, all the agreements that it has in place internally to raise the value and the opportunities for SMEs to be in these critical sectors. This is where the opportunity lies. How do we now use that, move up the value chain, adopt global standards, and move Malaysia into a place that it can be thoroughly active across the globe, not just the United States.
All right, Dato', we're going to go for a quick break in just a bit. But before we head on down to our break, perhaps you could share with us some challenges probably the MNC they face, and how AMCHAM can help them actually.
How the problems that MNCs can face. I think a lot of it has to be with understanding the rules at this stage. But also, with the supply chains on the move right now, it's understanding what Malaysia can do and what Malaysia can't do. And as supply chains move, that's going to be where the assessment's going to happen, is what should stay in Malaysia, what cannot no longer stay in Malaysia, for all the same supply chain reasons, not just on cost, but also risk and accessibility. And that's some of the areas that I think MNCs are going to be looking at, challenges, but not necessarily ones that are unsurmountable.
Okay, thank you so much, Dato'. And we're going to go for a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the impact of the art. Now, what would it be like on Malaysian SMEs? So stay tuned on Biz ASEAN. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Seluruh dunia perhati Malaysia, bagaimana kita boleh handle Trump, esoknya dengan Lee Chiang, hari ini sign dengan Trump, esok sign dengan Lee Chiang. Kemudian sepakat negara ASEAN, bawa Brazil, South Africa, Ramaphosa, kita panggil dia. Saya kena terang. Selalu dunia bagi perhatian. Saya syukur, saya anak Malaysia. Saya bangga kerana Malaysia harum namanya sekarang.
Welcome back to Biz ASEAN, and thank you so much for staying with us. And today we are talking to the CEO of the American Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, AMCHAM, Dato' Siobhan Das. Dato', thank you so much once again for being here. Now, Dato', let's talk about the impact of the ART agreement. So what's it like on the Malaysian SMEs, Will they be crowded out of the market, or will they thrive with opportunities that will be built domestically and also internationally?
Well, I think this is an agreement that gives SMEs real opportunity. Our membership mostly is the MNCs, but the SME presence and the SME ecosystem is the most important part of that relationship. MNCs here, whether they're American or from another country, are here because of the SME ecosystem. This agreement, I believe, will open up opportunities because they have a targeted market, that they know they've got a customer. And don't forget, Malaysia is one of the biggest biggest suppliers to the America. With that customer base, SMEs can actually project where their customers could be. And so therefore gives them much more reliability, the knowledge and ability to invest into their, not just CapEx, but also into their people.
Right.
Provide them the training to upgrade their standards so that they can meet the standards of supplying to the United States. And if you're supplying to the United States, you're going to be supplying to a global audience as well, because it's not just one way.
Now, Dato, first coming back to this question, now you've mentioned as well that there will be some form of I would say assistance provided to its members, especially SMEs. But let's talk about more support and facilitation as well when it comes to AMCHAM, and how does it provide to its members, especially SMEs, to adapt the emerging trade to the emerging trade and frameworks like the ART.
So as I mentioned, most of our members are MNCs, so we kind of work through the MNCs to get to the SMEs. But one of the things that we can do as a chamber, as a platform, is to be able to expose SMEs to what it takes to become a trusted partner, a trusted supply chain partner, and give them an idea of what that means and what that takes. So engaging with them, so it's not such a big hurdle. Reassuring them that there actually is a pathway towards that. Working with MITI, working with Martrade, I think those are the things that we're going to be exploring much more in depth on how do they access the US market. And I think Martrade has already some really good programs to help SMEs scale up. But this is an opportunity for SMEs to upgrade their skills, understand global standards, understand compliance. And this is where I think we could be running some workshops and we're understanding, or at least some platforms discussions of what compliance means from a US perspective, so that SMEs can actually kind of understand what they need to do. And I think a lot of it, that is the holistic understanding of what needs to happen is where we can play a role.
Perhaps that to those who are watching at home, when you mention compliance, like what sort of compliance are there or in place to ensure that both sides, we talk about Malaysia and also the US, they get to successfully implement a certain strategy moving forward? Probably perhaps that you could share with us.
Well, implementation is always about being the devil in the details, right?
Right.
So it's going to be work on both sides. Both sides of the agreement are going to have to make sure that the compliance regimes are in place from both sides of customs and any monitoring. But I think digitization and what the government is trying to do with the digitization of the public sector as well, and the encouragement of the private sector to digitize, whether it be from e-invoicing all the way to tracking, traceability. Traceability is going to be paramount in this, because in order to be compliant, you need to know where your goods are going, you need to know what you've been paying, all those details. So adopting digitalization as part of your strategy is something that I think SMEs need to look at seriously, because once they do that, then the compliance demand is much more easily managed. Right. If not, you're going to have a room full of people checking paperwork. So it'll be much better if you can actually adopt some digital tools, and there are many out there, and or create them through using the AI, using the computing power that you have on your doorstep to be able to solve these problems and make transparency part of that compliance and that regime that you as an SME and the MNC also needs to do, because it's global. It's not just for one client or for one use.
Right. Now, Dato, what about AMCHAM working with the Malaysian government? So let's talk about that. How is AMCHAM working with the Malaysian government to ensure sustainability? And let's talk about inclusive growth as well in the US-Malaysia business ecosystem.
Well, we've been doing this for a long time. This is a period of, a place where the MNCs have been always very working closely with the government to understand what they're trying to develop, and we've been part of the solution. Malaysia has always wanted to go up the value chain. US companies have come here, invested not just in physical equipment, but they've also invested in its people, so that people can move up the value chain. So I think this is working and understanding what the NIMP wants, what the aspirations of the country is, and as a chamber, we sit in between to try and explain the two. And we can try and bring the groups together to understand not just the aspirations, but where the difficulties are, which are the areas that are impeding businesses. And so that impeding businesses in general, just for companies in the country, not specific US companies, it's in general. Because I think if the ecosystem is working, then Malaysia becomes much more attractive to all MNCs that want to come and invest here. So working with the government is paramount, and something that we do already, whether it be discussing with MITI or with MOF or with any of the ministries, depending on which sector that we want to be able to flourish.
All right. Now, AMCHAM's perspective, what are the next key milestones in deepening trade, also tech and talent collaboration between the United States and Malaysia?
Well, I think there's always more that can be done, and I think we should be looking at what what specific areas that we want to develop. In the areas that the NIMP has identified already, these are key sectors that MITI has worked hard to get lower tariffs on. These are the ones that we need to be encouraging more investments. So how do we invest in talent? How do we invest in the technology? How do we use U.S. technology that now is much more readily available with this agreement to be implemented and put into Malaysia so that they can then train on this equipment? I know companies here send Malaysians overseas to different plants around the world so that they can be trained in the equipment, in the processes, and then they are brought back. So this training is ongoing. There's nothing new. It's just maybe it'll just ramp up a lot more. So talent mobility is going to be critical, so that we need to be able to not just send Malaysians out, but we have to bring people in so that they can actually be training alongside the Malaysians here, and they be transferring information, but working alongside. It's not a train and replace. This is about working alongside as part of a global value chain. And I think that the idea of bringing in foreign talent and then replacing them with Malaysians is no longer valid. We actually have to bring them alongside so they're both learning and growing, because technology is moving so fast.
That's right.
Everybody is learning at the same time. So how do we gel those two groups together and make Malaysia that trusted, secure partner and a real player in a viable in supply chains?
Right. Now, Dato, coming back to this before we go, just one last question to all our viewers who are watching at home. Of course, we've already spoken about the kind of support and facilitation AMCHAM provides to its members. But your hopes and aspirations out of the ART agreement, what would it be, Dato, in all of this?
Well, I mean, it's a strengthening of the bilateral relationship for sure. I mean, this is something that's been ongoing. It's the largest export market for Malaysia.
Yeah.
It's also the largest consumer base. So how do we take advantage of that consumer base? So how do Malaysians plug into that consumer base, not just through the MNCs that are here, but even directly? How do we make sure that that consumer base can be fed with Malaysian goods and real Malaysian goods that are made in Malaysia, designed by Malaysians, incorporated with the technologies and the wherewithal of the MNCs that are here? How do we make Malaysia that trusted partner and go down the line and, in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, see that ecosystem flourish, not just for a small portion, but right down into the SMEs and even maybe today's micros, so that they have opportunities to access that market too.
Exciting times ahead, Dato, for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Dato' Siobhan Das, for joining us in the program.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for being here once again. And of course, that was a perspective shared by Dato' Siobhan Das. Now, the agreement on reciprocal trade, ART, represents a significant milestone in strengthening the long-standing economic partnership between Malaysia and, of course, the United States. Now, it underscores our shared commitment to fair, balanced and mutually beneficial trade relations that promote growth and innovation in both nations. Now, as we move forward, Malaysia looks forward as well to deepening cooperation with the United States across emerging sectors, enhancing investment opportunities and fostering sustainable economic development that benefits our people and future generations alike. Now, that's all for today on Biz ASEAN. Now, be sure to join us next Thursday as we continue to spotlight the people, policies and possibilities shaping ASEAN's journey ahead. I'm Brendan Lepal, Malaysia Madani, RAKYAT DISANTUNI. Take care.
Terlepas dari siaran program-program menarik di RTM, jom saksikan semuanya di RTM Klik.
Assalamualaikum, Salam Malaysia Madani. Berikut rangkuman laporan utama. Industri elektrik dan elektronik serta semikonduktor negara memerlukan sokongan rangkaian antarabangsa yang kukuh, khususnya dengan kuasa besar seperti Amerika Syarikat dan China. Perdana Menteri berkata sokongan itu penting bagi memastikan ia terus berkembang pesat.
Kita kena kuatkan jaringan kita dengan Amerika Syarikat sebab dia ada kekuatan di situ dan ekspor kita tinggi di sana dan import dia pun besar daripada Malaysia. 25% daripada keperluan E&E dan semikonduktor Amerika itu dari Malaysia, sekitar hampir 200 bilion ringgit. Ribuan supply chain, puluhan ribu pekerja. Tetapi kita ada dasar yang disebut centrality, maka kita berkawan dengan negara